Meet Tim. He's a 26-year-old educational professional. He uses a variety of software to create online learning for students. He's also a gamer and enjoys installing the newest software when it becomes available. His current machine is only 3 years old, but it's already struggling to play the newest games and adequately run his Adobe development software. Meet Drew. He's a 38-year-old government employee. He mostly uses his computer to surf the web, watch videos, and write while at the coffee shop. His current machine is 5 years old and suffered a hardware failure. It cannot be upgraded. Both Tim and Drew need to replace their computers. Tim's regular salary is heavily budgeted, so he has no income to spend. But he has a $2,000 bonus from his employer coming in his next paycheck. However, Tim needs to withhold 18% of this bonus to account for capital gains taxes. Drew makes about $45,000 a year before losing 12% of his check to taxes and healthcare costs. Of that remainder, he allocates 3% of his annual take-home pay for the purchase of a new computer.
Okay, well, I know that PCs are cheaper, but Macs, they're easy to use. Anybody can just jump right into it, and I like ease of use.
Right, and Macs are pretty generally good for like multimedia stuff, and like you said, everything is kind of, the architecture is all set up for you.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to use, and it's nice and clean and simple and all that. But PC also has a lot of programs with way more compatibility with PC, though.
That is true. There's a lot more of them out there.
And I mean, I'm a gamer, and there's only a handful of really top-tier games that are compatible with Mac, so you really have to do a lot of workarounds just to, play some video games.
That's a good point. I mean, I guess I'm just leaning more towards the Mac because, the most I'm going to be doing is like typing up stuff, so that's really, you can go either way on that.
Well, and they're Macs are pretty portable, and if you like to go in coffee shops and write and stuff, then you can take that with you and, fit in pretty well, and that's good for, just browsing the web and writing and doing some multimedia stuff.
Yeah.
So you're thinking like desktop or laptop?
Well, if I'm going to be taking this around with me, obviously it has to be a laptop. You're not going to lug a desktop around you to wherever you're going. But what about you, though? Yeah,
well, I'm leaning towards a desktop because you can get more power out of it for games and stuff, and it's relatively cheaper than a laptop because the technology isn't downscaled, so you can get more power.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Well, when it comes down to AMD versus Intel processors, it doesn't really matter a whole lot to me, just whatever comes with the computer, more or less. But if you're looking for price, I can see where you would want to go for the cheaper one.
Yeah, and Intel offers, a pretty good range of products, and you can get some serious power out of them. And, if budget isn't an issue, I think Intel's a pretty good choice.
Okay.
So yeah, I just mentioned, I don't know if you know about like how many products Intel has, but they have the i3, which is, cheap, but it gets the job done, and i5 is kind of the mid-tier processor, and it's pretty capable, and the i7 is really, more high-end, can do a lot more processing, and it's pretty powerful.
Well, I'm not going to really be using my rig for a whole lot, so I guess, i3 if it's cheaper. But, but what about you? Since you're looking for more like gaming stuff, with i5, i7?
I'm leaning more towards the i7, just, to get more power out of it.
Now, when it comes to RAM, the memory, the pretty standard baseline is 8 gig now, although, it can go up to 16 or, I think, 32 if you're looking for more powerful rigs. Again, I don't really need anything all that powerful, so I'm probably going to be just going for the standard. But what are you thinking about yours?
Yeah, well, 8 gig is good for you, especially because you want to be portable and you don't need a ton of power. But, I'm leaning towards 32 just for the gaming, and you can have multiple programs open, like Illustrator and Photoshop, do your gaming, all that great design work. 16 can cut it if you're looking to be a little bit more budget conscious, but 32 is really nice if you can get it.
Yeah. And I guess, I could go up to 16 if I really wanted it, but yeah, 8 will probably just do me fine.
So, another kind of cool innovation that's come out is the solid state drive. And so hard drives, have become really important, and the performance on a SSD is really nice. It's a little more on the expensive end for the memory, or the storage, but man, the performance is just great.
Well, I heard too that solid state drives, they draw less power, they're more power efficient or something rather than platter drives.
Right, yeah.
Well, I guess, if I'm going to be doing mobile stuff, obviously I want my battery to last as long as possible. But what about for desktop? Because, that's probably going to be an option as well.
Solid state is great for performance, and the platter drive will be on the cheaper end, though. So if you are budget conscious, platter drive can work. It's not the best option, but it's definitely the budget conscious option. You can get a lot of storage for less.
Cool. Now, when it comes to video, you can go with integrated, that's already built into the motherboard, or you can go with discrete, which is, it's its own separate card. It's not really going to make a big difference to me. Video is not a big deal for me, but, discrete, that's upgradable. You can get better stuff for gaming there.
Well, yeah, and I know you're, just looking for word processing. I want all the memory. I want all the memory to myself. So, leave the motherboard memory to do the rest of the stuff. And, I really want that video power, so I'll take the discrete, so it has its own independent memory.
Yeah, so then you just got to figure out which one you want.
Mm-hmm.
That afternoon, Tim and Drew took a trip to a local electronics retailer. They found 6 computers that they liked, and each one had to choose the one that best suited his needs and budget. One was a laptop with an Intel i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of memory, a dedicated video card, and a hybrid hard drive that had both platters and an SSD. It was $1,899. The next was a desktop with an Intel i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of memory, a dedicated video card, and a hybrid hard drive that had both platters and an SSD. It was $1,659. The third was an iMac desktop with an Intel 5 processor, 8 gigabytes of memory, integrated video, and a platter hard drive. It was $1,199. The fourth was an Apple MacBook Pro. It had an Intel 5 processor, 8 gigabytes of memory, integrated video, and an SSD. It was $1,349. The fifth was a laptop with an Intel i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of memory, integrated video, and an SSD. It was $799. The final one was a laptop with an Intel i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of memory, dedicated video, and a hybrid hard drive that had both platters and an SSD. It was $1,549. Keeping in mind the types of work that each uses his computer for, each person's hardware, and budget requirements, which machine would you recommend to Tim? Which would you recommend to Drew? Why? Do you see another possible option for them?